of the chest to the head, and then the feet where she was made to stand in a little shrine. These figures date from around 18,000 BC, the Magdalenian times, or perhaps even earlier.
Campbell speaks of two types of human beings, the human being who is practical and the human being who is susceptible to beauty. We are all varying degrees of both, at times wrapped up in the day-to-day business of living, and at other times, usually in quiet moments of reflection, open to the spiritual dimension, to consideration of the mystery of life and, of course, death. It should be no surprise, then, that the earliest signs of mythological thinking should involve these very same themes. The goddess figurines of early Europe symbolize the mystery of the female body, which gives birth and nourishment to life. The mythic forms for the males, however, were quite different.
Now we turn to the problem of the male in this society, and now we go into the great big temple caves. I tell you, nobody would live in these caves. They're cold, they're dangerous, they're dark, and they are frightening. And the general consensus, I think, of scholarship is that they represent the sanctuaries of the men's rights, where boys were turned into men. And what they had to learn was courage. They had to undergo death and resurrection rituals where they die to their dependent infancy and come to maturity as self-responsible, active, protecting, active males. And they have to learn also not only the art of the hunt, but also the rituals of the hunt. Now, this particular figure is known as the Sorcerer of Trois Frères. There's an enormous cave, something like a mile in its reaches, in the Pyrenees. The cave is called Les Trois Frères because three brothers playing with their dog discovered it. The dog fell down a hole, and when they went down that hole, they came into this fantastic cave. The main chamber is an enormous chamber with this figure dominant, let's say, over there. Now that chamber is entered through artificial openings. But originally, apparently, it could be entered only through a long flume, like a pipe, about 50 to 75 yards long, through which one had to crawl, as though it were a rebirth theme. And one of the great scholars in this field, Herbert Kuhn, has described crawling through that darn thing. And if you're susceptible at all to claustrophobia, you'll hardly get through. Well, here one can imagine a team of 4 or 5 youngsters being sent through that. And when they come out the other end, this is what's looking at them. And all around the rest of the cave are engravings of animals, the animals of the great hunting plains. Because the hunting plains were abundant in animals, like the animals at Serengeti Plain now in Africa. Now this figure is part human, part animal. This is the animal master now in a ritual context. The evidence, and I'll show a little bit later, for shamanic action in these periods is very convincing. He has a lion body, and the placement of the genitalia in the rear like that is of the feline. The legs are of a man. The eyes are possibly of an owl or of a lion. Then the antlers of the stag. Now the stag loses its antlers annually and brings them back again, and so is, as it were, an incarnation of the forest spirit. Any animal that has an annual cycle, for instance, the peacock losing his tail feathers and so forth and so on, becomes symbolic of the process that moves in the seasons. So this is the mysterious sorcerer of Les Trois Frères. Does he represent a deity, or does he represent a shaman? There's been an argument on this, and it doesn't make any difference whatsoever, because the shaman in that form would be the deity. So we keep thinking of deity as a kind of fact somewhere, you know, God as a fact. God is simply our own notion of something that is symbolic of transcendence and mystery. The mystery is what's important, and that could be incarnate in a man, in an animal, not incarnate, but recognized in a man or in an animal. George Catlin in the northern Missouri River, among the Mandan Indians, does this painting of a Mandan shaman, an animal man. And here we go back to one of the caves of France, and there you have the same dancing figure. Now we come to